sponsors the weather on GB News.
This is your chance to win a motorhome and cash in our biggest giveaway to date. Courtesy of Marquis Leisure, you could be the proud owner of this 2025 Benamar Primero. It comfortably accommodates 4 people and can be driven on your standard driving licence. Plus, you'll also bank an incredible £30,000 in tax-free cash to spend on anything you like. Make sure you don't miss out. For another chance to win, text WIN to 63225. One entry costs £2.50 plus one standard network rate message. Or text BONUS to 63225. 5 entries cost £5 plus one standard network rate message. Go to gbnews.com/win. Entries start at £2.50. Call 0903 686 3232. Calls cost £2.50 plus your network access charge. Or post your name and number to GB16 PO Box 8690 Derby DE1 9TT. UK only. Entrance must be 18 or over. Lines close at 4 p.m. on the 31st of October. Please check the closing time if listening or watching on demand. Good luck.
5 hosts, 5 opinions, 5 fearless debates,
5 unfiltered takes on the day's news.
5 reasons not to be anywhere else on Saturday night.
This is the Saturday 5. You got me good there.
Britain's biggest Saturday night TV show.
It's not a bad brand.
Yeah.
Uncensored.
Very, very racy tonight.
On the unpredictable.
What did she say? Can you translate it for us?
And always entertaining.
And how can a country go from being led by William Wallace
Saturday nights from 6 p.m. only on GB News.
The People's Channel.
Britain's news channel.
You're going to want to stay tuned, trust me.
Mornings don't have to be tiresome, especially if you have the right company.
Wake up to news as it happens, opinion and debate, and of course, a little bit of entertainment too.
Because when the kettle's on, we're on.
That's Breakfast on GB News, a show worth waking up for.
Every morning from 6 a.m.
Only on the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
We'll spread the news, you spread the word.
From the school run to the home run, watch a new show for all of Britain.
He can say whatever he wants.
A straight talking show where all voices are heard.
And, you know, when are we going to stop talking about smashing the gangs and actually do it?
With the stories that matter from every part of our country.
There's a bit of a crash landing there for your Chancellor.
Bold, fearless and standing up for you. That's me, Martin Daubney, 3 p.m. till 6 p.m. weekdays, here only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
At GB News, we love to hear from you, our loyal community. So drop us a line at gbnews.com/your say. There you can talk to each other and also to the presenters live on air. gbnews.com/your say, because GB News is your channel, Britain's news channel.
I think for far too long in this country, millions of people felt as though they weren't represented at all by the establishment media.
GB News was needed because there literally was no other voice. Everyone was saying the same thing.
GB News exists because there is a desperate need for fearless journalism that puts the people first.
GB News came on the scene as a disruptor, and it has always been a disruptor ever since.
The mainstream is all about keeping the status quo as it is, ticking along quite nicely. They don't want to ask difficult questions.
But journalism is journalism at the end of the day, and we're not here to serve any masters. Our masters are our audience.
Charlie Peters, he gave a voice to the victims of grooming gangs, and now, of course, it's led to a national inquiry.
GB News exists to make sure those concerns are put forward and people feel as though what they want to ask is put to those in power.
We don't take orders from anyone. We ask the questions our viewers and listeners want answering.
I know what's actually being discussed by my family and my friends. Us ordinary, hard-working British people have had enough. We've had enough.
They're fed up with the same old establishment nonsense. Everything that we do is opening up conversations that others are afraid to go at.
Why are you illegally bringing people into Britain?
That is our job. Our job is to get to the truth.
If it's important to you watching or listening at home, then it's important to us as well.
That's what makes us the fearless champion of Britain.
Good evening, I'm Bethany Elsey with your top stories from the GB newsroom. Kemi Badenoch has announced she will take Britain out of the European Court of Human Rights if the Conservative Party wins the next election. She also set out plans to deport 150,000 illegal migrants a year. A so-called removals force, modelled on the US Immigration and Customs Agency, will be funded by closing asylum hotels. In her keynote speech at the party conference, she branded Labour and Reform UK as two sides of the same coin, and was adamant the Tories are the only party who can secure Britain's borders.
But I reject the politics that everything must go, that everything must be torn down, that everything is broken. But if we leave it to Labour or Reform, Britain will be divided. Only the Conservatives can bring this country back together. This is a battle we must win. By combining secure borders with a shared culture, strong values, and the confidence of a great nation, we can win the debate and win the next election.
Meanwhile, a donor and personal advisor to the Conservative leader has defected to Reform UK. Mark Gallagher reportedly donated £2,000 to Kemi Badenoch last October, just weeks before she was chosen to succeed Rishi Sunak. Police are to be given greater powers to restrict repeat protests. It comes just a day after almost 500 people were arrested at a pro-Palestine demonstration in central London. The majority were detained on suspicion of supporting the banned group Palestine Action. The Home Secretary, Shabana Mahmood, says these frequent large-scale protests have caused considerable fear to the Jewish community. People have gathered in Manchester to commemorate those who were killed in Thursday's terror attack on a synagogue. The funeral of one of the men who died, Melvin Kravitz, was held this morning, and the details of Adrian Dorby's funeral are to be announced soon. 3 men remain in hospital. One of them is in a critical condition, but the 2 others are now stable. 2 people who were arrested on suspicion of preparing terrorist acts have been released. Counter-terrorism police, though, have been granted extra time to question 4 others. Police are treating a suspected arson attack at a mosque in East Sussex as a hate crime. It's reported the fire brigade put out a large blaze in front of the mosque in Peacehaven late last night. Police said no one was harmed. Several local authorities, including the Labour MP for the area, Chris Ward, have condemned the incident as deeply distressing. Israel's Prime Minister says he hopes to announce the release of all remaining hostages held in Gaza within the coming days. Benjamin Netanyahu says it's the military and diplomatic pressure of Israel and the US which has forced Hamas to agree to some of Donald Trump's peace plan. However, sticking points over the group's disarmament remain. Israel is sending negotiators to Egypt for indirect talks with the group tomorrow. They'll be joined by senior US envoys and Arab mediators. You're up to date. I'll have more for you in an hour's time.
For all the latest from GB News whilst you're on the go, get the GB News app. Scan the QR code now to download or visit gbnews.com/app.
Earlier this morning, I sat down with the leader of the Conservative Party, Kemi Badenoch. Here's what she had to say. Kemi Badenoch, the leader of the Conservatives, thank you for joining me on my GB News show this morning. Great to see you. I'm looking at the logo for this conference. Stronger economy, stronger borders.
That's right.
You do realise that a lot in the GB News audience don't trust the Tories on either.
Well, this is what I'm here to do, to show them that we're the only party that can deliver that stronger economy and those stronger borders that we need. And I recognise that we lost that last election because people lost faith in us. My job now is to regain that trust with the public, drawing a line under the mistakes. We made many. I've acknowledged them. We've apologised. But what I need to do now is show how we solve today's problems. I don't have a time machine to go back and redo the last Conservative government. What I do have is authentic Conservative principles and a plan, which is something no other party has.
Well, let's talk about your borders plan. It is a 7-point plan, I think, which includes leaving the ECHR, cracking down on people who come here seeking asylum. If you've arrived legally, you can't. You're going to have an ICE-style deportations team, as Donald Trump has adopted in America. I noticed there's nothing in there on indefinite leave to remain, which is something Nigel Farage made a key plank of his immigration policy. What are you going to do about those 800,000 people who are going to get indefinite leave to remain between the next 3 to 4 years? Farage claims over 50% of them are on benefits.
So, first of all, we already announced our indefinite leave to remain plans. What Farage has done is actually copy some of what we did and then get it wrong. And this is what I keep telling people, that we're the only ones who have credible plans. We have said that indefinite leave to remain has become a fast track to British citizenship. We want to extend it. If you're claiming benefits, you lose it. If you commit crimes, you lose it. But we need to make sure that the people who are in our country are people who want to be British, want and love our values, and are contributing. We can't afford to look after the whole world.
Boris Johnson recently said he was very proud of the fact that between January 2021 and June 2024, 4.3 million people entered the UK, of whom 3.8 million were on long-term visas. Are you very proud of that record?
I have always said that immigration during that period was too high, too much pressure on public services. And as much as we tried, we did not stop the boats. We now have a plan to stop the boats. Lots of people have been asking whether we leave the ECHR. I said, I will make sure we have a plan, not just say it and then work it out later. That's how we got into a mess last time. That's why Labour is in a mess. I've announced now that we will leave the ECHR. We've got a 200-page plan that explains what and how. And then we've got a borders plan as well that explains the other things we need to do, because leaving the ECHR is not a silver bullet. On its own, it's not going to work. That's what that borders plan is.
How many people do you envisage deporting a day, and how practically will you be able to do it?
Well, once we've got the removals force in place, we should be able to get about 150,000 people a year. I don't know how that works a day. That would be different days. You'll have different things happening. But the truth is, we are spending billions now on asylum hotels and all sorts of things to look after those people who should not be here in the first place. So part of the borders plan, which I'll be talking about more today, is we're deporting all foreign criminals, whether or not they had a right to stay here, deporting all foreign criminals. If you arrive illegally, you will be deported within a week, and we need to remove 150,000 a year to make sure we save our country.
And you're convinced that this isn't going to be kiboshed by lawfare?
This is why I'm doing that work. Got the best lawyers in the country working on it. I'll be talking about it more in my speech. But lawfare is what has stopped us from controlling our borders. Labour tried their 1 in, 1 out deal, turned out to be 100 in, 1 out. And still they're dealing with the courts, still they're dealing with the judges. That won't happen under us.
How about it being kiboshed by your own MPs? We know that there's been an internal row for years about Brexit. There are also some in your party that do not want to leave the ECHR, do not want to crack down on immigration as you have. Now, Robert Jenrick, your colleague, has suggested that if they don't sign up to this plan, they should be kicked out of the party. Do you agree with that?
Well, I was very clear at the Shadow Cabinet, where we agreed completely, it was unanimous, that we cannot have a party where people do not abide by manifesto commitments. If you do not agree with leaving the ECHR, then you should not and cannot stand as a Conservative candidate at the election.
So are you saying you will kick people out if they rebel against this policy?
They can be in the party, but they cannot stand as MPs. You know,
so
we have lots of members.
At the next general election?
No. We have lots of members who have lots of views. We don't remove people for having slightly different views on policy. But if you want to be a member of Parliament as a Conservative, then you need to understand that leaving the ECHR is a manifesto commitment. We're not making random announcements like Nigel Farage. We have explained why. There's a 200 pages worth of legal analysis that shows that we can do it. It will have some difficulties. We are the honest party. We are explaining what those difficulties are. But if people don't like that, then no, they cannot be MPs.
But when you say the honest party, I think people listening and watching this will be concerned. They trust Nigel Farage more on this issue because he seems to be more robust on it. And the Tories' history has been of promising a great deal. Let's get immigration down to the tens of thousands, and delivering the complete opposite.
That is the history of my predecessors. I have been consistent. Everyone knows what I did when I was in government, when lots of people were attacking me on the gender and trans issues. I stayed firm. I've been proved right. And this is the way that I have always conducted myself. I'm asking them to put their trust in me. The party is under new leadership. I have always been consistent. I have always acted to authentic Conservative principles, and I am changing the Conservative Party so that it is like that.
Can we talk about the horrific attack on the Heaton Park Synagogue in Manchester on Thursday? The government is announcing new powers to crack down on protests that might disrupt the general public. There were 400 arrests at the jury's process that was in support of Palestine Action, which is a prescribed terrorist group in London. What's your view on these pro-Palestinian marches? Should they stop?
I think that the fact that they were marching on Yom Kippur, the holiest day in the Jewish calendar, shows that many of the people going on these marches are actually out to intimidate Jews, and I think that that's something that should be stopped. We have a right to protest.
Marches.
We have a right to protest in this country, but people are abusing those rights. Rights come with responsibilities. And what I would say to what the government has announced is, what took you so long? Every time we tried to do these things in government, they opposed it.
Well, people will say you didn't crack down on the marches. That was also a problem. The Tories didn't stop these people from marching through the streets of the UK, calling for the river to the sea chants, calling for intifadas on the streets of London. That wasn't stopped by the Tories, was it?
But it was strongly condemned by previous leaders. That was not something that I could control. I always said we needed to stop that climate of intimidation and fear. What we saw were a lot of people out to get Jews. That is something that should not be happening in this country. Jews have always come to the UK for sanctuary. The fact that people are attacking them, killing them on our soil is an abomination. This must continue to be a safe country for Jews. I cannot fix what previous leaders did. I know that some things were tried, and I know that there were additional things brought into place to crack down on protests. Extinction Rebellion protests, for example, were part of some of the things that we did. There are many people who are protesting well beyond what they need to do and actually stopping other people from going about their daily lives. We've got to stop that.
Gideon Falter, who's the chief executive of the Campaign Against Anti-Semitism, says that the Prime Minister has blood on his hands, the blood of Jews, because of his stance on Palestine, recognising Palestine, which he views, along with other Jews, as a reward for terrorism, a reward to Hamas. Do you think that Keir Starmer has blood on his hands?
Well, I think the fact that there are people in the Jewish community who are saying that just goes to show how much he has let them down. I wouldn't use that language, but I would say that he has not done anything near enough to make Jews feel safe in this country. Recognising Palestine when Hamas still had hostages was completely wrong. I said that at the time. I still believe that. It gave them a win. I think that a lot of the rhetoric and activity and action which the Labour government has done, banning licenses for us to send equipment to Israel, I think all of those things were sending a signal that encouraged other people, made them feel emboldened to continue intimidating Jews. And now this week, what we saw was an extreme example of that. I met members of that congregation. People were in the room. They burst into tears. Some of them couldn't even tell me what had happened. There were children there, old men, pushing against the door, worried that they were about to die.
Let's move on to the party. You've told members, MPs and delegates to hold your nerve. How are they supposed to do that when the poll rating for the Tories has been tanking under your leadership, now down to 14% in a couple of polls? That's worse than the Liberal Democrats.
That is something that I have said again and again. We have to hold our nerve because we're going to have to deal with tough times before we come back. Oppositions previously have been in opposition for 14, 13, 18 years. We're going to do this in 4 years. It's going to be very bumpy, but we will do it.
Are you saying you can be the next Prime Minister with the polling as it currently stands?
Yes, and the polling will change. But Camilla, this is the
But it's changed in the negative, hasn't it? Since you've taken power of this party, it's gone down.
But remember, we have been spending the time making sure that we have robust policies and not just announcing things that are going to, collapse the minute anyone asks a question. That's what happens with reform. We've just announced some of the toughest policies. I told people when I was elected that I'm going to do this the proper way. We're going to take our time. We're not going to rush things out because people won't believe us. We've had too many leaders of all parties rushing out things that they cannot deliver. What I say I can do, I will do because I've done my homework.
To bring the conversation full circle back to your Borders plan, isn't this basically saying to Nigel Farage, look, you'll be the largest party, but we agree with you on immigration and we will prop you up if necessary?
No, not at all. This is me saying that the Conservative Party is the only party that can deliver a stronger economy and stronger borders. Nigel Farage wants to spend loads and loads of money on welfare. You look at the plans he's talked about, our economy will be on fire
if he gets in. None of it makes sense. We are the only people who have credible and competent plans. And that is what I'm showing the public. This is not about him. This is about your viewers, your listeners. Read our plans, look at it. Who is it that can actually deliver? They've never been in government reform. We've seen what Labour are doing. They had 14 years to prepare for government. They still got in and they've made a mess. Can you imagine what it will be like with people who've never been in government before? They'll be learning on the job. They won't be able to deliver, and our country will be in a much worse place. Only the Conservative Party can deliver both the competency and the bravery to deal with these tough decisions.
Kemi Badenoch, thank you for joining me this morning.
Thank you.
I hope you got that very clear newsline from that interview that Kemi Badenoch will not allow anyone in the party to stand as a Tory MP if they do not support her borders immigration plan. A very significant step forward for Kemi Badenoch, saying if you're a Liberal Democrat masquerading as a Conservative and you do not support this, don't stand for us next time.
Britain was once the envy of the world, but look around. A nation that no longer knows what it is or where it's going. A country that's broken. How do we fix Britain? How do we bring it back? Friday night with Matt Goodwin at 8 p.m, only on GB News.
Decisions made in Washington aren't just shaping America, they're shaping Britain too. From migration to global security, from crime to health. Whatever happens in the White House today
will be felt in your town or city tomorrow.
That's why The Late Show is live from Washington, D.C.
Cutting through the politics to show you what it all means for Britain.
The Late Show live every night at midnight.
Only on GB News,
Britain's news channel.
At GB News, we love to hear from you, our loyal community. So drop us a line at gbnews.com/yoursay. There you can talk to each other and also to the presenters live on air. gbnews.com/yoursay, because GB News is your channel, Britain's news channel.
Hi, I'm Michelle Dewberry, and my show is your opportunity to cut through all the noise and dive in headfirst to some robust debates. Ideas clash.
Situation,
no,
isn't it?
Because
the failure is
you're deliberately avoiding my point. Nothing's held back.
And if you think this is the end of it, wait for more.
And we do not shy away from the difficult stuff. Sometimes I want to shake people and say, if only you understood. So join me on Jubes & Co. weeknights at 6 p.m, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Join me, Nana Okoye, for an informative, interactive news programme with a difference. It's fun.
No, he didn't say that, though. I'm so surprised.
I think there's an element of truth to that.
Join me from 3 p.m. every weekend, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Mornings don't have to be tiresome, especially if you have the right company.
Wake up to news as it happens, opinion and debate, and of course, a little bit of entertainment too.
Because when the kettle's on, we're on.
That's Breakfast on GB News, a show worth waking up for.
Every morning from 6 a.m.
Only on the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
We'll spread the news, you spread the word.
From the school run to the home run, watch a new show for all of Britain.
So he can say whatever he wants.
A straight talking show where all voices are heard.
And, you know, when are we going to stop talking about smashing the gangs and actually do it?
With the stories that matter from every part of our country.
There's a bit of a crash landing there for your Chancellor.
Bold, fearless and standing up for you. That's me, Martin Daubney, 3 p.m. till 6 p.m, weekdays, here only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Welcome back to the Camilla Tominey Show on GB News, live from the Conservative Party conference in Manchester. Joining me now is the Labour MP for nearby Blackley and Middleton South, Graham Stringer. Graham, lovely to see you this morning under very difficult circumstances for your constituents. The Heaton Park Synagogue that was attacked on Thursday is in your constituency. Let's just start by talking about how the community are there, what are Jewish people saying to you, and also do you have any status update at all on the 3 people who are still in hospital following this attack?
On the last point, I don't. I've not had any updates since then. The Jewish community are angry and upset, probably in equal amounts. They feel that they haven't had the support that they justify in this country. They are not surprised by the attack. They've been predicting that it would happen for some time. So they're not surprised. They are really upset. And what they are saying they want is for radical Islamists to be exposed and stopped. That's their major ask. The other things they want, they find it unacceptable that there are people with pro-Palestinian badges on who are saying horrible things to people when they go for treatment in the NHS. They think the NHS should be dealing with those people. They shouldn't be employed. They're concerned about the BBC. And when David Lammy was booed yesterday, they were making their feelings known about the government's recognition of the state of Palestine. So they're angry, upset, and they want more protection. And they want these demonstrations where people are chanting basically slogans that mean kill Jews. They believe they should be stopped.
Yes. We're going to get onto the chants in just a minute, Graham. Just on the David Lammy point, what was Downing Street thinking in getting him particularly to speak at that vigil when he has been very, very outspoken and vocal when it comes to recognising Palestine, when it comes to arrest warrants being issued for Benjamin Netanyahu and others in the Israeli government? He wasn't the right person to address that vigil, was he?
Well, in a sense, he was. I think too much politics takes place in television studios, if you'll forgive me, that actually politics really is out on the streets. And the fact that a senior government minister heard that, I think, is excellent. I felt sorry for David. I was stood behind him on the stage. But I think government ministers should get out more. I've said, both to the government and in interviews, that the demonstrations taking place outside hotels that have got asylum seekers in, most of the demonstrators there are just concerned parents. And there are obviously some violent extremists from both sides. But I've said ministers should go out and talk to the decent people who are concerned. That would take a lot of the heat out of it. And I think there aren't many ministers, there's a lot of people in the country. But getting out and talking to people who are concerned is real politics.
Yeah. Gideon Falter, who's the chief executive of the Campaign Against Anti-Semitism, has suggested that the Prime Minister, Keir Starmer, has got blood on his hands. Like many Jews, he accuses the Labour government of emboldening those who want to attack Jews with the recognition of Palestine, with this idea that they haven't supported them historically enough. And as you said earlier, Graham, you know, there was a sense of inevitability about what happened on Thursday.
I sympathise with the sentiment. I think what those people who are supportive of the Jewish community and want an end to this extremism and the demand to kill Jews, which is what's happening on our streets, I think we should not respond in extreme language like blood on our hands. I think it's a mistake to recognise Palestine. I don't think the government has done enough in terms of educating people. It's easy to take decisions if you're in the cabinet, but there is also a responsibility on the leadership to explore, not only to go out and meet people, to explain why they're doing it. And I've not heard enough from ministers who are obviously concerned about the slaughter that's been happening in Gaza, but there has not been enough statements. It's happened, but not enough, that Hamas's policy from its inception has been to kill Jews and destroy Israel, and it just simply isn't said enough by Labour MPs, by Labour government ministers. And the fact is that the issue in Gaza could have been sorted out within days of the horrible attack on the 7th of October on Israelis if the hostages had been given back. But what has sustained the war has been those hostages, dead and alive, have been held, and Hamas has refused to give them up.
The Home Office has released a statement this morning, an announcement that they will crack down more on the protests. More than 500 people arrested in London campaigning for the pro-Palestinian cause. We were meant to speak to the Home Secretary, Shabana Mahmood. She hasn't come on today. She backed out at the last minute, which does call into question, Graham, your comment about how ministers really must face the public, face the GB News audience. On these marches, should they be banned? And if not the marches banned, should some of the language, like from the river to the sea, calling for a global intifada, should that language be banned because Jews perceive it to incite hatred against them?
I think we're at a really difficult junction. I'm a strong believer in freedom of speech and the right of people to demonstrate whatever their views are. I think the demonstrations have passed that point. I understand the police have a difficult time. If there are 2,000 or 3,000 people demonstrating, going in and arresting them may make the situation worse. But in whatever way, we cannot allow people chanting, inciting people to violence and murder against Jews. We cannot allow that on our streets. So I think the police have to think very carefully about the tactics. We don't want a war on our streets. And the government have to think very carefully about how they deal with banning things. I think that weekly demonstrations in our major cities, particularly London, is wrong. The law shouldn't allow people to dominate Parliament Square and other parts of London on a regular basis. One demonstration, I don't know what the right amount would be every 2 months, would be adequate. And those demonstrations the police shouldn't allow people to be inciting other people to violence.
I think as well the GB News audience will be thinking about the Prime Minister's very strong words of condemnation for those who are involved in the Southport protests, equally some condemnation of those who are involved in the protests outside that Epping migrant hotel, and yet we have demonstrators who are shouting appalling things. Let's not be confused about what from the river to the sea actually means, and indeed calling for a global intifada. That means the destruction of the Jewish state, doesn't it, Graham?
It does. I mean, it is a form of chanting for genocide. I was with the Prime Minister and the Home Secretary on Friday with local leaders of the Jewish community and of national leaders of the Jewish community. And in that meeting, the Prime Minister and the Home Secretary left in no doubt that they were looking at changing the legislation. They condemned completely the attack and those comments. So I've not followed word by word what the Prime Minister has said publicly and compared it to what he's said about other demonstrators. But certainly his language should be as strong about the pro-Palestinian marches as it was about the people who were extreme in demonstrating outside asylum hotels.
Graham Stringer, thank you very, very much indeed for joining us on what I know has been a very difficult week for you and your constituents. Thank you.
Good evening and welcome to our latest GB News weather from the Met Office. After a stormy start to the weekend, the north-south split that we saw last week is going to return as we head into the new working week. It's all thanks to high pressure building down to the south of the UK. We'll continue to see some weather fronts just skirting across the very far north, bringing some further cloud and outbreaks of rain, particularly across western parts of Scotland as we head through the end of Sunday. This perhaps turning heavy at times in places, but mostly light, persistent rain and drizzle across western hills. Across much of England and Wales, though, generally a drier night to come, plenty of clear spells on offer and perhaps turning a little chilly in some rural spots in the very far south. Temperatures could be dropping down into the low single figures. A milder start then, though, across the very far north, particularly if you're stuck underneath that cloud and rain, and quite a damp start to the new working week across western parts of Scotland. We'll continue to see those outbreaks of rain persisting through much of the day. It'll perhaps be a little bit drier across eastern parts of Scotland, though still rather cloudy, and a cloudy start to the day across much of Northern Ireland and Northern England too. Some low cloud and mist and murk is possible over the hills, but any mist and fog that we might see developing under those clear skies overnight across much of England and Wales will clear relatively quickly through the morning, leaving a dry and bright start for many places in the south. That north-south split then continues as we go throughout much of Monday. Outbreaks of rain continuing across western parts of Scotland through the afternoon, but the best of any prolonged sunshine definitely across the south and the southeast. And temperatures will be up a little on Monday compared to what we saw over the weekend. 20, 21, perhaps even 22 degrees across the southeast, and even across the eastern parts of Scotland we could see into the low 20s. Tuesday is another damp start across the very far north. An area of rain sinks its way south and eastwards as we go towards the afternoon, perhaps turning a little brighter in the very far northwest, but a bit more cloud on offer across much of England and Wales. It's then turning settled as we head through the second half of the week, but after a warmer day on Monday, those temperatures are going to return closer to average.
Westminster's full of talk, but out here, it's the real world.
Am I allowed to talk then?
No, that's it. This is where it matters, real people and real lives. That's what politics is all about.
The fact that Trump made a good start, no.
Straight answers, no spin, and just a couple of pints.
How many fingers have I got up? About 10.
So join me for Lee Anderson's Real World every Friday at 7 p.m. only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Decisions made in Washington aren't just shaping America, they're shaping Britain too. From migration to global security, from crime to health. Whatever happens in the White House today
will be felt in your town or city tomorrow.
That's why The Late Show is live from Washington, D.C.
Cutting through the politics to show you what it all means for Britain.
The Late Show live every night at midnight.
Only on GB News,
Britain's news channel.
Welcome back. Joining me now is the chairman of Reform UK, David Bull. Lovely to see you this morning, David. Thank you for joining me.
Pleasure,
the Conservatives have come out with a borders plan that's lovely to see you. The Conservatives have come out with a borders plan that you'll be envious of because it cracks down on illegals and legals, but it isn't as controversial as your own plan, which has rubbed a lot of people up the wrong way.
Camilla, I think this is a desperate last-ditch attempt to have some sort of credibility and semblance of actually being able to do something. In fact, when I read that policy last night, my mouth dropped open because it's pretty much a copy and paste of the policy that we launched some month or so ago, Operation Restoring Justice. I think you were at that launch, and pretty much they are doing exactly what we said. And this is very much like a copy and paste. They've literally taken every single word. And when Chris Philp talks this morning about the fact that we put it together on the back of a fag packet, I think that's pretty rich coming from the Conservative Party, who did nothing about our porous borders over 14 years.
Well, having said that, Kemi Badenoch has accused you of ripping off her indefinite leave to remain plan. She says she's set up a commission with Lord Wolfson to argue through the legal arguments for leaving the ECHR, whereas you haven't really spoken to as many lawyers as she has on the issue.
Well, that's simply not true.
And if they have ripped off your policy, you must be absolutely delighted with it, David, that both of the parties on the right are singing from Nigel Farage's hymn sheet.
Well, if you look at the latest Merlin poll, the voters don't actually trust the Tories to get anything done. And there's a very good reason for that, isn't it? They're all talk, nothing ever happens. And when you look at the latest polling, this morning, we've gone up to 34, which is up 2 points. The Conservatives and Labour both down. We're polling almost as much as Labour and the Tories combined. And so the public is saying, actually, we want to take back control of our borders. We want someone to actually sort out this unholy mess. And that the people to do that will be Reform UK.
Just to warn viewers and listeners, there are odd noises and bings and bongs and bangs and a vacuum going, just in case you're hearing background noise. But that's because we're on location, which is something David Bull, as a former broadcaster, you're very familiar with. When it comes to the Tories, you're saying all of this quite critical language and using that. But if we look at the latest MRP poll by YouGov, that finds that Reform still don't have enough support in the country to form a majority government. You need a stonking majority in order to push through a pretty hefty legislative agenda, including your own immigration plans. So you're slagging off the Tories, but you might need Kemi Badenoch and her MPs to prop up your next government, mightn't you?
Yeah, Camilla, remember we've been here before. We stood down, didn't we? We gave Boris Johnson an 80-seat majority, which was squandered. There is no way we would do a deal with the Tories. Look, when it comes to those polls, actually, they are very different. So the latest polling shows we win between 271 to 450 seats. That could give us a working majority of, say, 47 or thereabouts. But the point is that actually, I think the public, and I've been going around the country, I've seen 5,000 people over the last 4 months, and people are sick and tired of the back and forward, to and fro, from the Conservative Party to the Labour Party. They are looking for something different, and that is where we come in. And actually, we are only just getting started, and that's the message that I'm giving out to people as I go around the country. Watch those poll ratings, they will go up.
All right, but hang on a minute. Are you saying that you'd rather be in a minority government than form a pact with the Conservatives? Who else are you going to form an electoral pact with if you were going to enter into coalition government? You're not going to form it with the Lib Dems or Labour or Green or Zara Sultana or Jeremy Corbyn. So if you don't form a pact with the Conservatives, if you haven't got enough for a majority, you're then going to let Labour in for another 4 years.
No, the point is we believe that we can win and get an outright majority, and that is what the polling is showing us.
But
look, but what I was going to say was when you look at those polls, actually it looks like the Tories will be pretty much wiped out. They would be reduced to about 41 seats. Labour would have its worst results since 1931. You don't set out in a race to lose the race. Look, when you have a general election approaching, and remember it could be some time away, what we are doing is setting out our stall. We will have detailed and costed policies by the general election, and we are saying to the British public, look, which do you want? Do you want the Tories, do you want Labour, or do you want us? And I'm telling you, around the country, GB News viewers will be sitting at home thinking, I've had enough of all of this, and it's time to give another party a chance, and that party is ours.
GB News viewers and listeners are very concerned about the case of Nathan Gill. This is the former leader of Reform in Wales, who was taking bribes from the Russians. What on earth has gone on here, David Bull? How can there be such a person in the Reform Party?
Well, obviously he's not in Reform UK. I knew Nathan when we were in the Brexit Party together. We served in the European Parliament together, and obviously what I've read is absolutely horrific. It has no place in politics. So we have distanced ourselves from Nathan Gill, and he deserves the full force of the law.
Can I ask you about Zia Youssef's comments about the Prime Minister's rhetoric at the Labour Party conference? He claimed earlier this week that it had incited violence against Nigel Farage. He also revealed that Nigel Farage's taxpayer-funded bodyguards had been cut by 75% by the government. What's your response to that? Is Sir Keir Starmer inciting hatred against your party leader?
Yes, I think he is, actually. He said that Nigel was not patriotic. I've worked with Nigel for a very long time.
Shouldn't he?
Well, so I know there is no one more patriotic than Nigel Farage in this country. Also, he then claimed that we were a party of racists. Now, that is inciting violence as far as I can see. And the fact is that revenge is a dish best served cold. So you can see Labour has fallen by 5 points since he made those comments. We've put on another 8,000 members, thanks to the Prime Minister. I think the Prime Minister should do the decent thing, call a general election and see if the public back him.
The Prime Minister has denied Zia Youssef's claims that he has incited any violence against Nigel Farage at all in his rhetoric at conference. But just by extension, if you think that his words are inciting violence, then surely both you and Zia Youssef should be calling on the police to investigate.
Yeah, I think it's a really good point, actually. Look, I think you also have to look at this pragmatically. As I said, I'm going around the country
to investigate the Prime Minister.
Well, let's just talk about the ramifications. Let's not forget Joe Cox, David Amess. Let's talk about what it means to be a member of Parliament. Nigel Farage, and I can't go into operational details, but certainly our security has had to be stepped up. I am very aware when I'm going around the country that there is a risk attached to all of this, and it only takes one stupid person to do something. I think certainly Keir Starmer's rhetoric was wrong. I think the public can see that. That's why the poll rating is going up. But as to whether it's a police matter, that is a matter for the police.
But do you think that the police should potentially investigate the Prime Minister over the words that he has used at conference about Nigel Farage?
I think politicians need to be much more careful about the language they use. I think it is very easy to sit there and throw insults and abuse at various politicians of different colours and different parties, but there are ramifications to all of that, and actually the safety and security of all members of Parliament is paramount, because one of the biggest problems we have is getting people to actually put their head above the parapet and say they actually want to stand and become a member of Parliament. If we don't allow that to happen in a safe and secure way, we will not get the best and the brightest going into Parliament, and that would be a travesty for this country. So I think politicians on all sides need to be very careful. Remember, play the ball and not the man.
Well, I am literally sitting opposite the Sir David Amess Theatre, so I think that's a very good point. Just finally and very, very quickly, David Bull, because we're running out of time, Kemi Badenoch said that people who are in the Tory party, MPs that don't support her borders plan, cannot run for the Tories at the next general election. So you could have some more Conservatives coming up for you if you want them.
Well, look, I make this very clear when I go around the country. I say we don't want failed Tories. We want the best and the brightest from across the political spectrum, and that is what we are seeing. We have had defections like Danny Kruger from the Conservative Party. He is very welcome, but there are lots of Tories I certainly wouldn't take, and I think the rest of the party would feel the same way.
All right, David Bull, thank you very, very much indeed for joining me on this Sunday morning. Great to speak to you.
Can't wait to get in that sea.
Lovely and warm.
Just like the feeling of having great travel insurance.
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GB News travel destinations forecast.
It's been very unsettled across parts of the eastern Mediterranean, and it will stay pretty wet across Greece and parts of the Balkans through the next few days. But Iberia, the Canary Islands and also Madeira having plenty of fine weather through the day on Monday. 1 or 2 showers for eastern Spain, but lots of fine sunny conditions across Italy too. We'll run into those thunderstorms and heavy spells of rain there across Greece, some stronger winds as well. And as we go towards Tuesday in the middle part of the week, that unsettled weather will push in towards Turkey as well, so potentially some flooding here.
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GB News travel destinations forecast.
Britain was once the envy of the world. But look around. A nation that no longer knows what it is or where it's going. A country that's broken. How do we fix Britain? How do we bring it back? Friday night with Matt Goodwin at 8 p.m. only on GB News.
Exciting news. Every Friday, my Patrick Christie's Tonight Show is going to have a twist to it. We're welcoming some special guests. You. That's right, on Fridays I'm going to be doing my show in front of a live studio audience, because this show is about you and what you have to say. It's going to be the same big debates, same big topics, same big opinions. But every Friday night at 9 p.m, you are invited to come on down to Patrick Christie's Tonight to be a part of the action. Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Hi, I'm Michelle Dewberry, and my show is your opportunity to cut through all the noise and dive in headfirst to some robust debates. Ideas clash.
Situation,
no,
isn't it?
No,
Because the failure is...
You're deliberately avoiding my point. Nothing's held back.
And if you think this is the end of it, wait for more.
And we do not shy away from the difficult stuff. Sometimes I want to shake people and say, if only you understood. So join me on Jubes & Co. weeknights at 6 p.m, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Mornings don't have to be tiresome, especially if you have the right company.
Wake up to news as it happens, opinion and debate, and of course, a little bit of entertainment too.
Because when the kettle's on, we're on.
That's Breakfast on GB News, a show worth waking up for.
Every morning from 6 a.m.
Only on the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
We'll spread the news, you spread the word.
From the school run to the home run, watch a new show for all of Britain.
So he can say whatever he wants.
A straight-talking show where all voices are heard.
And, you know, when are we going to stop talking about smashing the gangs and actually do it?
With the stories that matter from every part of our country.
There's a bit of a crash landing there for your Chancellor.
Bold, fearless and standing up for you. That's me, Martin Daubney, 3 p.m. till 6 p.m, weekdays, here only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Join me, Nana Okoye, for an informative, interactive news programme with a difference. It's fun. No, he didn't say that, though. I'm so surprised.
I think there's an element of truth to that.
Join me from 3 p.m. every weekend, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
At GB News, we love to hear from you, our loyal community. So drop us a line at gbnews.com/yoursay. There you can talk to each other and also to the presenters live on air. gbnews.com/yoursay, because GB News is your channel, Britain's news channel.
Welcome back. With me now for reaction and analysis to this busy conference. We've got drills going, we've got a vacuum going, got bing bang bongs. Sorry about the background noise. That's live telly for you folks. And joining me now on live telly is GB News' political editor Christopher Hope. Loving your tie.
Too much?
No, never.
It's Manchester. Wear
I like
pink.
a man who embraces pink. Now, come on, we've got quite a good scoop from this Kemi Badenoch interview, haven't we?
We really have. Let's remind viewers what she said there. She said, if you want to be an MP, as a Conservative, then you must understand leaving the ECHR is a manifesto commitment. Leaving the European Convention on Human Rights is a manifesto commitment. That is a challenge to all of the existing 120 Tory MPs, that unless you want to leave the ECHR, you're out. And that is a problem for maybe a fifth of the party, I think.
Do you think a fifth of the party won't support the Borders plan?
I think some might say, I can't fight in a party that wants to leave the ECHR.
Do you know who I'm worried about?
Who?
James Cleverly.
Well,
he just came back into the shadow cabinet. He doesn't support this, does he?
Well, he may say he does today. We'll ask him.
Will he? Yes,
in my
we must
hand
ask him.
is the document.
Bloody hell.
This is a scoop on GB News. This is Lord Wolfson's report on leaving the European Convention.
You can tell he's a lawyer, can't you?
Human rights.
You could have sent this in an email.
It's 200 pages long.
Good Lord.
Near enough. So what they say in terms of the Tories...
The vacuum's going again, Chris.
Reform UK...
It's like being at home with me in the dustbuster, honestly.
This is what Reform UK hasn't done.
Yeah.
This is a 200-page Casey report on leaving ECHR. This is the thinking which the Tories say Reform hasn't done. That's why they say it's the back of a fag packet.
I know, but are they doing that to convince their own MPs, let alone the country, that it's a good idea? They need the legal backing to say that this policy is workable in law, right?
The Tory party has senior Caseys in them. They have to convince other Caseys why they need to do it. This is a document which will underwrite the major issue, the major battleground for the next general election is here, and it's out today.
What did we make of her saying to her own party, hold your nerve? It's quite a ballsy thing to say in a way, isn't it? Look, she knows they're tanking in the polls. A couple of polls put them at 14%. There's now talk about whether they're competing actually to be the party of opposition, let alone the party of power. She's quite a steely and determined person, though, even though there are all these rumours about people deciding whether she should go in November or next May.
She's been asking for time for a long time. She said she's a marathon runner. It's not a sprint, to which we say it is a sprint and you're a marathon runner. That's where you're losing.
Yeah, get on with it. It's a 24-hour news cycle.
But this could be the boost that she needs, this actual thinking behind her policy. She said she's an engineer. She says she wants evidence before agreeing to things. She looks at Reform UK riding high in the polls and says, well, they're just doing it because they're going where the votes are, where the frustration is. She spent money and time on getting the policy right, and I think that may work for a lot of Conservatives thinking about going towards reform.
My biggest takeaway about the Borders plan is she is absolutely pivoting to right and not left. She's not doing that thing of we can only win an election from the centre. which is often uttered by people that don't understand the centre ground has now shifted so far to the left, it's not centre anymore.
And that's a problem for her, possibly, because yes, Reform UK are a problem on the right, but also is holding those Lib Dem switches on the left, and
Yeah, but
that's,
the Lib
you may
Dems-
lose them to they won that majority in 2015, didn't they, by conquering the southwest unexpectedly,
Yes.
killing the Lib Dems in the southwest.
Yes.
That might be very hard to do with this document.
But bearing in mind that the Lib Dems are the kind of silent assassin in all this, they've got 71 seats. There's many who think that they may end up being the next party of opposition if the Tories don't navigate this carefully. If you're down in the southwest and you're inherently a Tory, but you've found Boris Johnson and everyone else that came before him and after him completely ridiculous, you don't want to vote for Reform because you think they're too hard right. You do want to crack down on immigration. You maybe look at this clear thought out thinking and look at Kemi Badenoch and think, actually this makes me feel better about being a righty, so I'm going to vote for the Tories again. Maybe that's the theory, right?
That is the theory, I think, and it is. I think you have to respect her. She's held the line and she's fallen in the polls asking for more time. Well, she's come out with a significant document here which will form the centrepiece, I think,
Yeah.
of this party's manifesto.
Let me take that document off you because I want you to
It's
delve
heavy.
back into your GB News notebook, because we've had a really interesting announcement this morning. 8 a.m. it dropped, probably to try and swerve attention away from
Yes.
the party conference here in Manchester. And this is about the police being given more powers to crack down on protests. In what way, Chris? How will this work?
On repeat protests. So it's announced by Shabana Mahmood, the Home Secretary. Sadly, not on your show today, because I think, frankly, GB News viewers want to hear this from her. But let me tell
We
you
had
what she
her
announced.
lined up to come on last night, and then suddenly at the last minute, the plug was pulled.
Anyway,
much to our
let me
disappointment.
summarise what she would have said were she here. The police forces will be authorised to consider the cumulative impact of protests. This means repeated protests in the same place on the same issue can be forced to relocate to a different area.
Right.
That will hit, for example, the Palestine Action protests repeatedly in Trafalgar Square in London and Parliament Square in London. Also, probably some protests in Manchester too. We saw it at the weekend.
Sure. So this kind of like weekly drumbeat of pro-Palestinian marches.
And arrests and time being
So
caught
are
up
we
by
saying,
the police.
Chris, that's going to be stopped and that these people will be told, I'm sorry, you can do one every 2 months, but not more frequently
The
than
detail
that?
isn't clear on that, whether it's every 2 months or every 6 weeks or every 3 months. It'll form part of the crime and policing bill. There'll be an internal review also ordered by Shabana Mahmood, the new Home Secretary, to look at all protest legislation to ensure that this power is applied consistently. So it's about repeat protests. Don't forget, nearly 500 people arrested in London this weekend. When there's an arrest, that normally takes up 3 police to process every arrest.
Yes.
That's a lot of people being tied up, a lot of police being tied up when they can do other things.
There was that extraordinary exchange between the campaign against anti-Semitism and the police saying, can you say to the Defend Our Juries lot who are supporting the Palestine Action protest that actually 2 Jews have just been killed at a synagogue, 3 more in hospital, we need our resources to go towards protecting synagogues. Can you just stand down the march because we need resources? To which these progressive replied no.
Well, to be fair to her, the Home Secretary, Ms Mahmood, she appealed for British decency.
Yes.
Thursday, Friday. Hasn't worked.
It failed the
Sunday,
taste test.
she's out with a policy. I mean, this is good, strong stuff, I
Now,
think.
I think this lady is interesting, isn't she?
She is.
She has seemingly
come from nowhere to be the next successor to Keir Starmer.
Do you
it
reckon?
seems, it feels that way.
Do you think so? Well, I tell you what, she seems to be much stronger in her rhetoric and her actions than her predecessor, Yvette Cooper, who's a very experienced parliamentarian. I don't want to take anything away from Cooper, but to be fair, by comparison, Mahmood does seem to mean business on this.
She's on the front foot. She's got a ready-made crime and policing bill. She can hang things on there, going through Parliament. It won't be a big delay before it becomes law. I would caution, though, on civil liberties. Yes, of course, the issue at the moment about Palestine Action and those protests, but you wouldn't want to prevent other protests all the time.
We
So
believe in
there's a balance
protests.
there, isn't there?
Well, look, I believe in the right of protest, but I just thought Thursday night's protests, not just in London but in Manchester, failed the taste test.
Yeah.
I don't care who you are, where
No.
you come from, what religion you practice, what you believe in, whether you agree or disagree. 2 Jews have been killed. They've had to barricade themselves inside a synagogue. Have some respect.
To which protesters say, yeah, but thousands more die in Gaza.
Yeah,
so that's what they say back.
But I don't understand the whataboutery.
No.
You know, when it comes to Jews being attacked,
here, right?
David Badenoch summed it up with his book. Jews don't seem to count. It doesn't seem to be the same thing. Chris, you're going to be busy today and for the rest of the week with GB News. You want what back?
Oh
yes.
Report.
You know what? If I have some problems sleeping tonight at the hotel that I'm at, I can borrow that off you. Chris, hope you're going to be back on the airwaves. Thank you very much indeed. Stay there. Loving the tie. Well done, you.
Today, clouds overhead, total zen within. Box Solar sponsors the weather on GB News.
Good evening, welcome to your latest GB News weather from the Met Office. After a stormy start to the weekend, the north-south split that we saw last week is going to return as we head into the new working week. It's all thanks to high pressure building down to the south of the UK. We'll continue to see some weather fronts just skirting across the very far north, bringing some further cloud and outbreaks of rain, particularly across western parts of Scotland as we head through the end of Sunday. This perhaps turning heavy at times in places, but mostly light, persistent rain and drizzle across western hills. Across much of England and Wales, though, generally a drier night to come, plenty of clear spells on offer and perhaps turning a little chilly in some rural spots in the very far south. Temperatures could be dropping down into the low single figures. A milder start then, though, across the very far north, particularly if you're stuck underneath that cloud and rain, and quite a damp start to the new working week across western parts of Scotland. We'll continue to see those outbreaks of rain persisting through much of the day. It'll perhaps be a little bit drier across eastern parts of Scotland, though still rather cloudy, and a cloudy start to the day across much of Northern Ireland and Northern England too. Some low cloud and mist and murk is possible over the hills, but any mist and fog that we might see developing under those clear skies overnight across much of England and Wales will clear relatively quickly through the morning, leaving a dry and bright start for many places in the south. That north-south split then continues as we go throughout much of Monday. Outbreaks of rain continuing across western parts of Scotland through the afternoon, but the best of any prolonged sunshine definitely across the south and the southeast. And temperatures will be up a little on Monday compared to what we saw over the weekend. 20, 21, perhaps even 22 degrees across the southeast, and even across the eastern parts of Scotland we could see into the low 20s. Tuesday is another damp start across the very far north. An area of rain sinks its way south and eastwards as we go towards the afternoon, perhaps turning a little brighter in the very far northwest, but a bit more cloud on offer across much of England and Wales. It's then turning settled as we head through the second half of the week, but after a warmer day on Monday, those temperatures are going to return closer to average.
Today, clouds overhead, total zen within. Box Solar sponsors the weather on GB News.
At GB News, we love to hear from you, our viewers and listeners. So drop us a line at gbnews.com/your say. There you can talk to each other and also to the presenters live on air. gbnews.com/your say, because GB News is your channel, Britain's news channel.
You could bank an incredible £30,000 in tax-free cash to spend however you like. And if that wasn't enough, you'll also get to drive away in this brand new motorhome. This brand new 2025 Benimar Primero could be yours. It comes with all the mod cons you'd expect from a vehicle worth over £74,000 and comfortably sleeps 4 people. This prize package is worth over £104,000. For another chance to win, text WIN to 63225. One entry costs £2.50 plus one standard network rate message, or text bonus to 63225. 5 entries cost £5 plus one standard network rate message. Go to gbnews.com/win. Entries start at £2.50. Call 0903 686 3232. Calls cost £2.50 plus your network access charge. Or post your name and number to GB16 PO Box 8690 Derby DE1 9TT. UK only. Entrance must be 18 or over. Lines close at 4 p.m. on the 31st of October. Please check the closing time if listening or watching on demand.
Hi, I'm Michelle Dewberry, and my show is your opportunity to cut through all the noise and dive in headfirst to some robust debates. Ideas clash.
Situation, isn't it?
Because
the failure is...
You're deliberately avoiding my point. Nothing's held back.
And if you think this is the end of it, wait for more.
And we do not shy away from the difficult stuff. Sometimes I want to shake people and say, if only you understood. So join me on Jubes and Co weeknights at 6 p.m, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Mornings don't have to be tiresome, especially if you have the right company.
Wake up to news as it happens, opinion and debate, and of course, a little bit of entertainment too.
Because when the kettle's on, we're on.
That's Breakfast on GB News, a show worth waking up for.
Every morning from 6 a.m.
Only on the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
We'll spread the news, you spread the word.
From the school